bad now, but she was bad. I had normalized stress so much that I couldn't even feel it in my own body anymore. I would visit doctor after doctor, and if it wasn't what I want to hear, I'll go to the next doctor. The world is so loud. Social media is loud. Your family and your friends all are loud. Your affliction is the affirmation to your calling.
Welcome to another episode of the Dre and Smiley, the Inner Circle Podcast.
All right, so we have a great guest on with us today, Jennifer Branison. Jennifer Branison is an imaginative creative thinker with a wealth of experience as a communication and digital strategist. After discovering the significant impact of stress on her health, Jennifer embarked on a transformative journey towards a happier and healthier life. Now known as the Stress Relief Coach, she empowers ambitious women to boost their confidence and achieve their professional success without compromising their mental and physical well-being. Jennifer's mission is to alleviate the pain associated with common women's health conditions and guide them in creating a new narrative for their lives. Her best-selling book, Release the Pressure, which sounds like a captivating title, chronicles her personal health journey, where she overcame fibroids, endometriosis, high blood pressure, and a speech impediment in less than 4 months. Recognized as a rising star in entrepreneurship, Jennifer was featured in Vinoy Business Magazine as the next big entrepreneur. She's also a prominent advocate for women's health and has been featured in Refinery 29, where she shared insights along Vice President Kamala Harris upon the introduction of the Uterine Fibroid Research and Education Act. Jennifer holds a master's degree in interactive journalism, digital storytelling from American University, and is a proud member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. With that said, Jennifer, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I have 100 questions. Let's start with the most obvious one for me, which is stress, right? When did you first discover what it was and how it impacted you in your life? Talk to us about that.
That's a funny and very interesting story. So I didn't know how far deep in the water and how dire my circumstances was until someone noticed the signs and symptoms in myself. And even then, I wouldn't admit that I was not okay because I was made to be a high achiever. I was born to be the best, as in a lot of Black families. You were born to achieve and to achieve greater than generations before you. So that's all I knew. And I had normalized stress so much that I couldn't even feel it in my own body anymore. And I operated that way for years, for close to about 10 years, because I was first diagnosed with fibroids at 23. And so when I had a mentor, and so my mentor basically, she just read me and said, stress is so normalized in your life that you don't even feel it. And she almost wanted me to do something drastic to break people's expectations of me because they weighed so heavily on me. And so that's when I really first noticed or first realized how bad I was, how stress was driving my life. And how I was operating that way, how I had normalized it over time. A part of it was because of, like I said, generations before me. So it was normalized in my family. The conversation of disease was always a topic of conversation in my family. Almost every woman in my family had a hysterectomy after having fibroids. So I thought that I was going to suffer the same fate eventually. I'm talking about like my mom had a hysterectomy, my grandmother had a fibroid the size of a grapefruit, had to have emergency hysterectomy, and all the way up until my great grandmother. And High blood pressure too was a topic of conversation, and normalizing that as well.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I was hit with fibroids at 23, hit with high blood pressure at 27. I was already dealing with a speech impediment. I used to stutter since I was 3. And then endometriosis at 24. So it was like a boom, 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 boom situation. And my body was sending alarms, and alarms were going off, but I was so focused on achieving and so focused on my goals that I didn't even wake up to really notice and really take the time to notice how badly I was suffering.
Isn't that something? So I think all of us have stories of people we know. The guys, unfortunately, aren't very good at at recognizing the stress and pain, things like that. But all of us know of people that have endured, right, and become numb because of different reasons. Perhaps it's for the reasons you shared, that they're pushed to be high achievers. As men, it's kind of, we're pushed to, be providers and make sure our family has the best, things like that. But there's a cost oftentimes that comes with it. So I guess the next logical question, and I'll pass it over to Smiley here, is that once you discovered through the health crises that you experienced, once you discovered stress was at the root of it, in a matter of 4 months, you were able to turn a lot of this around. So obviously, your answer, your solution may not apply to each and every individual. There's no one silver bullet, but talk to us about how you turn things around in 4 months.
Yeah. So to your point that there is no one size fits all. Everyone has different stories that they're constantly telling themselves in their lives. And I was looking for stuff that was outside of me, external circumstances. I would visit doctor after doctor, and if it wasn't what I want to hear, I'll go to the next doctor, and I'll go to the next doctor. And two, like, being around people who justified the story that I was telling myself was that I couldn't heal. So number one, I had to first believe that it was possible. And I think that's, there's so much information out there. Everything is so loud. The world is so loud. Social media is loud. Your family and your friends all are loud. And you're constantly having competing narratives in your head, which is partly the reason why I was so stressed out about what you should do. And so once I touch and agree with somebody, because we talk about miracles, we read about miracles, but do we necessarily believe in them? And so I touched and agreed with somebody who said, look, you come over here, it's going to be great. And I didn't believe her. I said, oh, okay, but all right. I tried everything at that point. Like, I had multiple surgeries, I had 3 surgeries due to my fibroids and endometriosis. And I was still searching for an answer, still searching for a solution, and taking lots of medication. I was on like 3 different types of medications at one point in my life, and trying to plan my life around my health conditions. And because there are certain times of the day that you can take your medication, certain times of the day that you can't. And so what I basically did was shut everything down. I talk about in my book, like, I silenced the noise and shut everything out so I could hear my own self think. And a lot of people, because we hold on to data, lies of data, they say that 80% of women that suffer from fibroids, 80% of women will develop fibroids by the time they're age 50. Endometriosis causes for infertility. So you have all of this data and all of these things out there that's telling us we're going to lose. And what I did is shut everything out. I stopped watching news. I got off social media. I didn't answer my phone for 4 months. Because it was drastic. Like, I did this to save my life. You talk about, like, women are dying. Like, heart disease is the leading cause of death among women. And more than half of women who are on high blood pressure medicine don't have it under control, and that was me. My high blood pressure was unexplainable because it was due to stress, but no one ever checked my lifestyle. No one ever really to stop and think how I was doing. And so like the first thing was like I just silenced the noise so I can hear my own self think about what to do with my own body.
When you look at your the stress that you described, would you say it was because of others' expectations they put on you, or expectations that you put on yourself?
Yeah, so that's a twofold question. So yeah, so it was other people's expectations because I was addicted to serving. Like I was raised to take care of everybody else, and I didn't know how to take care of myself. And then also too, it was how I saw myself. Circumstances and events that happened, in your life, whether it's on your job or you're dealing with like a toxic job, which I did at one point, or if you're dealing with something that's happened in your life where I couldn't necessarily find a job, like find a position that was right for me, then your value and your self-worth becomes compromised. When you look for your value in other things instead of just telling yourself that you're valuable. It was all about how you see yourself, and that I didn't view myself as being valuable. I view myself as being a failure. And then also trying to prove to myself and other people that I wasn't a failure, which kind of, went back to the high achieving. Like I got to get this goal. I don't have time to look at myself. I'm going to take this medication. I'm going to keep rolling and keep it moving because I want to get to the next level, but I couldn't, and nothing was working. I didn't know why.
When you started to silence the noise and concentrate on what you wanted and your thoughts, how did your circles treat you, your friends, your family, when you say, you know what, I need to take some self-care for me. Y'all do y'all, and I'll be here get myself together for these 4 months. Was it positive, or was there some backlash against that?
Oh, it was sheer panic. It was sheer panic. I was everybody's go-to. I was everybody's girl. I'm the one that gets everything done. I'm the everybody put their hopes and dreams into me, which a lot of leaders experience too, with their families and with just achieving high and being in leadership. People put so much pressure on you, and it's up to you whether or not you want to take that pressure. And I decided to release it, which is why my book is called Release the Pressure. And so, yeah, when I first started, it was sheer panic. But because I'm doing this to save my life, even though other people may not realize it, I had to stand firm in what I believe. I think about like the one with the issue of blood. Like she left everything behind to go get her miracle. She didn't talk to her family. She didn't talk to her friends. She didn't talk to anybody. She said, you know what? If I can just touch the hem of Jesus' garment without really knowing if he could help her, she still went and touched the hem of his garment. And now we're talking about her today. And I think about, if I did not take that first step, if I did not take that first journey, where would I be now? It's the same concept. And it takes a lot of courage and a lot of self-confidence to tell people no, to set firm boundaries with people and say, you know what, I'm going to take care of myself for right now because this is what I need to do to move forward.
And I want to go back to the stuttering that you mentioned, or that Dre read in your bio, because my brother, I live in Tampa, and he moved here. He's an older brother, and he says, well, Smiley, you stuttered when you was from 3 to 7 or 3 to 9. He told me I stuttered. I was like, no, I didn't. And then I started thinking about it, and I did. And I don't know what it was that I blocked it out of my memory, or I don't know what they did for me, so it went away. But when your stuttering stopped, how did people respond to you, or how did you respond to yourself when that was stress related too?
Oh, it was definitely stress related, definitely, because I was born to be the best, and for me it was trauma. It was a traumatic event that triggered the stuttering, but then also my mom still trying to normalize it. She said she dropped me off at daycare one day. When I came back out, she said she heard me rambling in the car, and then rambling turned to stuttering. And just out the blue. And she took me to a pediatrician, and the pediatrician said, well, she stutters, and she's going to stutter for the rest of her life. And yeah, it was at that moment that, we allow people to speak over us. We allow people to tell us what our path is going to be, and that's really hard to look in the mirror and really find out that what if your life was because, or the result of your life was because what someone else told you to do? We were told to go to school, to go to college, you get a career, you stay on that job, and then you retire. But what if that doesn't work for you? What if you're made for
Mm.
something bigger? What if you're made
Mm.
for a specific purpose that's going to impact the world far beyond what your job can do?
What's interesting about that, Jennifer, is that, Smiley and I have had guests from, many different walks of life who have different paths. There's no one path to success, right? However it's defined. Generally, on our podcast, we generally define success as someone who's living an extraordinary life, right? Living the life they want. And what's tough is what you just described is a lot of people go through their lives where, either their parents or their community has these expectations of them. You're going to become a doctor, you're going to be a lawyer, you're going to own a business, but that may not be the path to success for you. That may not be your purpose. Discovering that, it's got to be tough. Do you have any suggestions for our listeners in terms of what do you do to break out of that mold that's been created for you and pivot towards that path that leads to a stress-free and productive life?
Yeah. So yeah, there are ways to control stress, but you can't completely do away with it and get rid of it. But there are ways to control it. But I will say, if you want to embark on that journey towards your purpose, there are a few things that you need to do. So number one, you got to take care of yourself. You got to have proper self-care, and you have to believe in what's possible outside of your job. And so once you take the time to really take care of yourself, like me, what changed my life was working out. Meditating is one of my favorite things to do. I'll sit and be still. I have a story about meditation that's completely crazy, but um sitting still, being still. And women in leadership don't necessarily know how to do that, or don't know how to sit still. We think of all the things that we could be doing with our time instead of just being still. But you have to sit still in order to know what God is telling you. What is your next step, or what is your next thing on your path, on your journey. And so, take care of yourself. You got to be still. So that breeds clarity. So you become 100% clear about what you want.
Mm-hmm.
And that was something that I couldn't answer at the beginning of my journey. What is it that I wanted? And even when I did try to articulate what I wanted to, it
Mm-hmm.
wasn't it was the right thing, but I was sharing the wrong story. So it's an interesting story. So I became a women's health advocate
Okay.
after the whole fibroids and endometriosis thing, right before I embarked on this journey. And because I didn't want to be alone, because women don't have the avenues and the spaces to express themselves. And that was
Mm-hmm.
me. I suppressed a lot of my emotions, and I didn't know how to deal with them. I didn't know how to manage emotions. I didn't know how to feel anymore. I was very numb to
Mm.
life, to things that happened to me. I would just let it roll off my back and keep on pushing. And even at work, we call that emotional labor, because emotional labor is the amount of effort it takes to hold everything in, all of your feelings. Code switching is a form of emotional labor. If you can't show up truly and authentically in yourself, that's emotional labor. And I think that's how the term overworked and underpaid got coined, because of emotional labor. You just holding your emotions so much to the point where you don't even feel them anymore, because you think that's what you have to do to survive. And if you're going to find purpose, you have to live in abundance. You can't live in survival. And so you have to let that go. You have to challenge the stories that you're telling yourself too. A lot of it was I couldn't heal. I couldn't, get rid of high blood pressure and all this stuff. But once you be still, and once you get clarity about your own life, then yeah, the purpose is not too far behind that.
Yeah, and I think one of the things you touched on is really difficult for most, especially those who are service oriented like you are. and that's sitting down and sitting still, right, and not worrying about everything else that you feel like you need to have done, like you need to get done. It's okay if you don't do it. It's okay if someone else does it, and focus on kind of meditating and finding your real purpose. So I like that you shared that. I like that you shared that. Here's another question I have for you. So in the bio I read, it mentions that you also, as you touched on a second ago, you're an advocate for women's health, and you were featured alongside Kamala Harris. And tell me more about that experience. You worked with her on the Uterine Fibroid Research and Education Act. Tell me about what that is and your partnership with her.
Yeah. So it wasn't necessarily a partnership. It was just my story was featured alongside of the exclusive with Refinery 29. Like I knew a journalist over there. She knew that I had fibroids. She said, we're getting ready to run this exclusive with Kamala Harris. Would you like to be a part of it? It's actually like the third anniversary of that article because it's the first day of Fibroids Awareness Month. July 1st. July is Fibroids Awareness Month. So
we didn't know that. So thank you. Perfect timing.
I didn't know.
Yeah. So that's how that article came about. Because I've been sharing my story for a long time. I've been a speaker like for a few years, like for over 5 years before I embarked on the journey of like releasing the pressure. But what was interesting about me sharing my story, which other women have a tendency to do, is that they share trauma and not necessarily share, a testimony of how they overcame, but share what happened to them. And that's what I was doing. And so I was unknowingly accepting the condition and normalizing the experience that I did not want. But I'm very proud of the article. I'm very proud to be featured in Refinery 29. That was in 2020. Upon the introduction of the Uterine Fibroid Research and Education Act, they basically dedicated a certain amount of funds, like in the government, to now research uterine fibroids because there's no really a lot of information out there about the cause, and they're like documented as not having no cure, but like we know that's not true. So
Yeah.
Right. But I had searched far and wide and tried to normalize it and tried to, look for a solution and not knowing that I was the solution.
Powerful. I like that. Knowing you're the solution. So you mentioned that you work with, or you concentrate on women's concerns. Do you work with men or
No,
only
I'm
women?
called to work with women at the moment. I get a lot of that though. I do. I get, why don't you work with men?
Because we have issues, we want you to help us resolve them.
Hey, so the question I have for you is, when you work with women, do you work with Latin women, African American women, white women, Asian women, and do you find differences in the way that the U.S. diverse women deal with stress?
I would say even just talking to women, there are a lot of similar issues too, because I think that fibroids really starts as a generational issue. Too, with women not knowing how to manage their emotions, being reactive, and all of that. I feel like that's a common issue no matter what race you are. And fibroids largely affects Black women, but it affects other races as well.
And do you find the work-related stress or the pressures are similar,
Yep.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's the same? Now, last one on the demographics. Do you work with say college level women, or do you wait till they're in the career world?
So I haven't tapped into the college market yet. I largely work with women who are like largely my age or like up until their 50s, like childbearing age too, because that's when like your health is compromised the most. So but no, yeah, if once I get the ball rolling on this coaching and everything, I definitely would want to tap into that because it starts like in your childhood. It starts there. And so that's a passion of mine as well. So
One more. You mentioned that you in your bio, Dre mentioned you wrote a book, and you mentioned the title earlier. But let's say it's 2033. Does Jennifer write 5 books by 2033? Does she have her own big YouTube channel where she's helping women from all over the world? Or what does the future look like?
Yeah. So that's the greater vision, right? And that's the thing about purpose. Like, I wrote a lot of these things down years ago. Like, I always talk about on social media that I had a vision for Release the Pressure before I ever knew about a health condition or anything. So, in
Wow.
2012, I was in my car. I was driving home from church. I was at a stoplight. And all of a sudden, I was taken to a place I did not recognize. Talk about this and Release the Pressure. And it looked like what it was my book signing. I was on a platform. There was security behind me. And I was looking out, and there was a sea of people, and they were mostly women. And women were coming up to me, and they were hugging me, and they were crying, and they were telling me how much I impacted their lives. And I was
Wow.
just in disbelief at what I was seeing, because like I was tapping into the future, and I didn't know it, and it scared the living daylights out of me. And then I looked to my right, and there's a mirror, and I'm looking at like who I could become, basically. I'm looking at myself. I had on white. My hair was slicked back. She was bad. I mean, I'm bad now, but she was bad.
Yeah, you are.
And so as soon as I took a small glimpse of myself, God took me out of that dream, and the light turned green, and I drove back home. And I didn't know what to make of it. All I knew was that it was my book signing. And like I talked to one of my family members, and she said, well, obviously that's a sign from God, Jennifer, write it down. So I dated it and wrote it down. The name of the book was different, but the concept of the book was the same. That was like almost 10 years ago. And ever since then, like, even, as I get diagnosed with other health conditions, I'm writing down, I need to start a business. I want to do a wellness conference. I don't know where these ideas or these things are coming from, but they're coming at me. So I just like wrote everything down, and that became like the larger vision. So the larger vision for me in about 10 years is to have like my own network. I want it to be the next Kathy Hughes. Like I was like,
Awesome.
I had an internship at BET like in 2010. And that like internship changed my life. And I got really a glimpse and look of how women in corporate operated, because I was in the headquarters, like down here in DC, when the headquarters was in DC. And not knowing that, I thought I was going to own my own network and just be on TV, but not knowing that I would have like this story to share. But I tell people too that I also asked for this because, back when, in 2012, back when I couldn't, really find a job that I thought that was right for me, and I was getting rejected after rejection after rejection. And I'm a leader, and I don't know how to handle that. So at that point, like I was like, I know I'm great, and no one else like knows I'm great. So that was a part of the also compromising like the self-worth things of putting your
why can't they see what I see?
Why can't they see what I see? And really holding my worth, my value into my career, because that was the only thing I knew. But everybody was telling me to write, and I didn't know what to write about. It's like, you should start a blog, you should write, about your journey. And I had no idea. And so I went into my prayer closet, got on my knees, I prayed to God, and I said, if you want me to write so bad, then give me a story. And then I kid you not, the next year I got diagnosed with fibroids. So
there's your story. There's your story. Wow.
So be careful what you pray for, but you just might get it. But then also too, like you like your affliction is the affirmation to your calling. So like the thing that you don't want to touch, the thing that's the most painful for you is the problem. Maybe that's the problem that you're meant to solve for another person. And that's me. I became the physical manifestation of the problem, the issue that I had for years. And now I can, pass that blessing on to other women. So
do me a favor, Jennifer. Say that phrase again. Your affliction.
Bishop T.D. Jakes said this. Your affliction is the affirmation to your calling.
Mic drop. I like it. Okay, let's shift gears a bit. So you are a communication and digital strategist. Yep. how do you use your skill set in that role to bring more awareness around women's health?
Oh yeah, definitely. Everything has come like full circle. Whether it's me
Okay.
speaking on podcasts like this, because I had my own radio
Mm-hmm.
show. It's exclusive. I had my own
Okay.
radio show in
Okay.
college.
Okay.
Reminiscent R&B jams with humble beginnings, but
Okay. Okay. Okay.
but yeah,
Okay.
like really speaking on like a bigger platform and stepping on a bigger platform, because I came from J school, I came from journalism school, and so like now like
Mm-hmm.
recording videos and uploading to social media and all of that stuff, and really learning how to build your own brand and market yourself. That's what I'm doing now, and I'm doing it for a message, an important message, for women to really see themselves in me, because I'm not like this high, like high being or whatever. I'm a regular girl who just decided to embark on this journey and
Mm-hmm.
become a generational curse breaker, which we all have the capacity to do, and really had help in really cultivating my message, but I already had the skill set, so yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Makes sense. Makes sense. Okay, so before we get into the final four, what's one thing that people don't know about you that you wish they knew?
That's a good question. I was thinking about that, when I was watching other interviews of other people.
Okay, okay,
What is
okay.
one thing about me that I wish people would know? Let's see. Hmm. Um, that I would say that I was born to shine. So so a lot of people don't know this. So I was in a movie, like a documentary. Because it's crazy.
Wow.
I was like, whoa.
Yeah, you bury you come from J school. That's called burying the lead. Come on, Jennifer, tell us
Yeah.
about this documentary. Tell us about
Yeah,
this
yeah. So
documentary.
it was so I helped paint this mural in my neighborhood, and the
Okay.
mural was featured in this documentary, of like and it was like this kids in the city. I'm a latchkey kid, so there was a recreation center across the street from my house, and we were all in
Mm-hmm.
summer camp, and we saw cameras down the block and everything, and it was at the corner where my grandmother's house was, and
Mm.
I got picked to help paint this mural, my brother and I, and the mural is hasn't been torn down, hasn't been graffiti. It's like just like the movie, but it was like a small like little like documentary. We were featured on the news and everything, and so that was like a
Wow.
foreshadow to like to
Yeah.
what I'm doing now. I was like 10,
Sure.
like when it
Okay.
happened, but yeah. So
Interesting.
hmm
Interesting. Yeah. 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 So I distracted you from fully answering the question. If you wanted to add more to it in terms of what you're doing, are you doing anything else in terms of bringing more awareness? In your journey towards helping women overcome health challenges. And I apologize for interrupting you and going down that path of the
Oh
documentary, but
no,
it
no, no,
sounded
no,
fascinating.
no. No, that's fine. Yeah, so I started a coaching business, and so now I'm coaching other women, helping other women, with basically, because the transformation for me was my confidence increased.
Mm,
I had gotten a really big raise at work, and with
mm,
I had worked on this project, when I was working, that just blew up within 2 weeks of me just silencing the noise and releasing the pressure and focusing on me. I had a project at work that went viral, and it was featured on CNN, all these places, and in less than 24 hours, everyone knew my name at work and everything. And so now I am assisting women with increasing their confidence and getting promoted without sacrificing their mental and physical health, because there's a way to do it.
And for those that are interested, and we're getting into the final four, so I want to give you an opportunity to kind of share details. For those that, after listening to this podcast, have an idea of, whoa, I need someone like this in my life, what's the best way for them to connect with you?
Releasethepressurenow.com. That is the best way they can get my insight, and they can learn how to increase their confidence and get promoted without sacrificing their mental and physical health. They can also get my book at releasethepressurebook.com. That's another way to get in touch with me. I live on LinkedIn. That's where I hang out the most. On Instagram at Jim Branison. Also on Facebook, Jennifer Branison. I'm everywhere. So
Okay. You're not hard to find.
No, not at all.
Okay, so we'll make sure that we'll link to all your socials and your web links as well to make sure that's easy for our listeners to connect with you. Smiley?
Awesome. Well, as part of the final four, here's a question for you. If you're going to have dinner with anyone alive or dead, there's 4 chairs at the table. You're in one of them. Who would you want to be in the other chairs and why?
So it has to be like one person or just okay.
It could be 3. You got a table of 4. You're in one chair, and the other 3 representatives at your dinner table. Who do you want to have dinner with, alive or dead, and why?
Let's see. Kathy Hughes would be, she's alive.
Yeah. Last time we checked.
Yeah, because her story just captivates me, like just so much of just building something from the ground up. And that's when I really noticed that I really just want to build something, and build something meaningful. And she has dominated the market with, Radio One, TV One, Urban One, like everything. And now her son runs the company. So it's like a generational thing where she has passed, like really created generational wealth for herself using her own gifts. And so that is like the number one person that I definitely want to like pick her brain.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah. So I think that's like at least the only one I can think of off the top of my head.
Okay.
You don't have to have 3. You could just have a table of you and her. It could be anyone.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and then also too, like the woman that I saw in my vision, like I'm always working to attain her, but I would love to like sit down and say, sis, how was the journey? Like the woman that, like me in the future, I want to sit down with her and say, like, sis, give me the tea. How was the journey? Like, how did you get from where I am to where you are? Like, I would love to have a conversation with her.
I love that. That's the first time we've got a response like that, I think, Smiley, in terms of
I think so. I like that.
That makes sense. Kathy Hughes is I mean, her journey, I agree with you. I'd love to come to that dinner party as well. There was a moment in her career where she bought that radio station and slept in it with her son. And they would shower in the bathroom. They'd sleep at the hotel because she didn't have anywhere else. She had gotten divorced. She didn't have anywhere else to stay. And she, like you said, she built that Radio One from nothing. But yeah, so I see why you would choose her. What's been your greatest success?
My greatest success, I would be to attain inner peace, and really just working on myself to the point where I'm free of everything that was holding me back, every health condition, everything. That is my greatest success, because now, when you discover the thing that was holding you back, or you realize what was holding you back and you decide to work on it, and then you remember who you are, you become unstoppable.
All right, here's one. What is your superpower? What is something that's uniquely you? Superman flies. The Hulk has his strength. Wonder Woman has her lasso and her invisible jet. So what is it that Jennifer has that's uniquely her, that's her gift from God that no one else has?
So connecting with women to the point where it brings light to what they're suffering with. Because if I talk to you long enough, then I'll definitely pinpoint know what you're suffering with. And that's the thing, like when you're free, you immediately recognize what someone else is going through. And so that is my superpower.
Yeah, having that clearer vision,
Mm-hmm.
right? Love it. Okay. So you're clearly already an author. So my guess, like Smiley suggested earlier, is that you have at least 2 or 3 and maybe 5 more books coming. By the way, Smiley has like what, 12? How many books do you have out now, Smiley? 10. He has 10 books
10.
out. So he's an author too. So tell me this though. What would be the title of your biography?
What will the title of my biography be?
Yeah.
Let's see. Hmm. I will say Joy Comes in the Morning. Joy comes in the
Ooh,
Joy
I
comes in the
like that.
morning. That was going to be the title of my first book. I switched it to Release the Pressure because that was a little bit more relevant. But yeah, Joy comes in the morning.
Yeah. I love it.
Joy comes in the morning.
There you
That's
go.
beautiful. I love that title. Well, Jennifer, this has been most enlightening. And I want to thank you once again for getting on our podcast on a Saturday and sharing your wisdom, your experiences, your visions. We really, really appreciate you. Thanks again.
Yeah, and I'll just add real quick. One of the silver linings I think of having this podcast is having the opportunity to talk to people from, again, different walks of life that have had different life experiences. Yours is so unique, and it's hopefully inspiring to our listeners. So we, like Smiley said, we appreciate you coming on and sharing your story and your journey with
Yeah,
us.
thank you. Thank you. I just want women to know that, what is possible and that you are the creator of your life. You don't have to be a victim.